Are we ready? Okay. Live from Huntertown, Indiana, it's Soarin on the air. And we're going to continue our discussion from last week when we talked about birds are noisy. So, this is Birds Are Noisy Part 2. So, last week we talked about the various ways that birds make noise. And so today we're going to talk about how birds sing. And again, well, who was it? Lauren Bacall said to Humphrey Bogart in that movie, "You know how to whistle, just pucker up your lips and blow." Well, unfortunately, birds don't have lips, so they just can't pucker up. So, well, sometimes they pucker up, that's the other end. But anyway, so how do birds sing? And again, another one of these really interesting stories. And fortunately for you, I'm long-winded and I can tell this thing. So first off, we have to start off with what is sound, okay? And so I know this is going to be a little scientific today, but I think you'll appreciate it in the end. So sound is made up of vibrations or sound waves that we can hear. These sound waves are formed by objects vibrating. Sound waves travel through air, water, and solid objects as vibrations. When they reach our ears, these waves make the delicate skin of our eardrums vibrate. So, and then, of course, you remember from high school health, about the eardrum and then the, the anvil, stirrup, and what's the other thing? There's three things. But anyways, and they're connected to the cochlea, and the cochlea has little nerve endings in it, and the little nerve endings transmit the little signal into your auditory system and into your brain. So it's really, really interesting. But anyways, but we're not going to talk about us, okay? We're going to talk about birds and the sounds that they make. So the physics of sound, basically sound is made up of various components. One of those is frequency, or sometimes what people call pitch. And the frequencies are made up of fundamental sounds, and so whatever the bass sound is, and then harmonics, okay, or basically doubling, tripling, quadrupling. What's the next thing after quadrupling? Way high. Anyways, so there's lots of harmonics, and then there's a thing called beats, and the beats are what happens when you have a mixture of fundamental harmonics and different frequencies together. These beats are add and subtract. So, and you can hear that in the intensity of music you hear. So when we talk about beats in music, that's usually where you hear the thump, 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 thump sound. So I'm going to start off with a demonstration of what beats are. So normally we have a sine wave, if you will, or a sound that's made and depicted by this little blue line here. And a little blue line goes along, and that would represent maybe some basic frequency. And the black line here, this sinusoidal, goes along, and it's a different frequency. Well, you take the two frequencies and you add them together. Sometimes there's peaks, like here, here, and here. And sometimes there's nodes, way down here and here. And so that is what we call producing our beats. So when we hear an orchestra playing or something like that, or the band's out there, and Louis over there, he has a lot of experience marching, and you hear the beat, right? Thump, 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 as they're playing whatever type of music that the general wants to hear. So we're used to that kind of thing. So there's beats. So, and then also sound is made up of intensity. We have loud sounds and we have soft sounds. Okay, so there's an intensity or power in the sounds that are made. And then there's some other things that come along with sounds. One of those things is being resonance, and resonance is basically when the sound that is produced matches the physics or the physical size of an object, and the two synchronize, if you will, and they produce a solid sound which might amplify that sound. And so a typical form of resonance is when you play a horn or something like that. When the horn player musician blows and he has his little lips going okay, into the horn, and then he gets in resonance with the horn, and it produces a nice mellow sound. And then there's also bandwidth. In other words, how many of these fundamental and harmonic frequencies are produced and come out of the source of the sound. So we're going to talk about a few of these things. And this is a spruce grouse over here. And over here is a sonogram. Okay, there's two different types of sonograms here. One is a sonogram of amplitude information that the bird is creating or making over time. And then the lower picture here demonstrates the frequencies that are being produced, and the coloration here is where the sound is the most intense or the most powerful, and that's the yellow part. And so here's a spruce grouse. Here's the spruce grouse. Oh, here he is.
Sounds like somebody laughing.
I know he was. What you been, Ruby?
Something I can eat?
Ruby says, that sounds like something to eat. Lunch. So here's the spruce grouse, and you can see the amplitude going up and down as it emits the sound that it's making. And like I said, here on this display here, same time frame. Now you can see the intensity. But you also notice very low frequency. So this is down here about 50, 60 hertz. So it's a really low frequency sound. There are a few little things here in the background, these little purple things. And that's probably some background music that we have back there, some birds calling.
Sorry, everybody.
Interrupting everything. What? Okay.
I just had to move.
Oh, okay. What, you trying to get away from Georgie there? Okay. So this is one type of thing that you know about the birds. You have frequencies that go over time, and then you have the power that's emitted by the bird. Now, spruce grouse, of course, do their sounds along with many other of the galeniforms or chickens, if you will. And they produce sounds at a low frequency because they're down on the ground, and low frequencies travel very well along the ground and can penetrate the forest and go through there. Now this is a black pole warbler. This guy's going to be coming up here probably in about 3 weeks, unless the snow continues. And this is a small bird, so it's a little, about the size of a goldfinch, if you will. And so it's a very light bird. And this is a bird that sits up in the tops of trees or bushes and emits a call. And in this case here, we're going to take a look at the display here. Again, time going across this way. Amplitude starts off soft, rises in amplitude, then peters out down here. And here's the frequency. You can see there's not a whole lot of power in this display, but you can see that the frequency is about 9 kilohertz. And I think that's a little bit beyond my hearing, and I think yours, and probably most people. But we're going to try this. And if anybody's dogs get excited, I'm sorry, okay? So, let's see here, Bob, get there.
We have a question. What could you say? What kind of bird?
Black pole warbler. Black pole, see the hat at the top here?
Yeah.
The pole, okay.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, wow.
That one.
Nothing, but it doesn't surprise me.
Ruby.
Something.
Yeah.
Ruby hears that.
Yeah.
So that's really high frequency.
Wow. That's hurt your ears.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So, well, I'm fortunate. This must be a nice quiet room or something, because I can hear that even.
Yeah.
So, real high pitched sound. And now the thing about these, you notice there's very little power in this song that's being emitted, and it doesn't travel very far. Typically this kind of song here is only going to go out about maybe 50 meters at best, or for you English people, 150 feet. Okay. But the bird's going to do this from the top of a tree or something like that, and broadcasting it around. But it probably won't go down at low levels broadcasting this. So it wants to be out in the open so it can get that signal out. And here's our little friendly chickadee. And we think of the chickadees as having a really simple little song, chickadee, dee, 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 But over here, we have a sonogram. And you can see that the bird's call is a really, really rich. It's rich in harmonics, okay? You can see here's the base frequency is about 390 hertz, okay? So it's, so about down there. But look at all the harmonics that are made. So we have all these frequencies, and the most power is up here at around the 10th harmonic, okay? Or about 3,000 hertz, okay? And then it peters out. But you can see, and here's a histogram, if you will, or a chart that shows the harmonics and the relative amplitude or power that bird puts out. So the base frequency, what do I have there? 300 something? Somebody needs these glasses.
339.8.
Okay, 339, okay. 339. But if you notice that there are no second, third, or fourth harmonic, the harmonics start showing up at the fifth harmonic. And then so you go to the fifth harmonic all the way through the 17th harmonic. And so there's all kinds. It's a very, very rich sound that's going out there. But we hear chickadee dee dee, but yet in every one of those syllables, there's a mass amount of sound going out of different frequencies. So let's see what that guy sounds like here. You hear all those harmonics? He's talkative. Oh. We could do a whole thing on chickadees. Okay, and that 17th harmonic out there, that's about 6 kilohertz. So that's getting up there into, but Louis could hear that, right? So
No.
No, okay. But Ruby didn't seem too disturbed by chickadees.
No.
No, so, but it's the other ones that kind of had her going.
Yeah.
So anyway, even though the bird, the sounds, the voice sounds simple, but when you really concentrate, you can really hear, different little bits of it, and if you know what you're looking for. But the main thing is, it's just very interesting how there's so much power on about that 7th or 8th harmonic, or I guess it's right here was the 8th, 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
So those harmonics
10 and 11.
have the most power in them, and you say, well, how is that bird doing that? How are these birds making these sounds that are so complex? Because that's a little bitty bird with a little bitty brain. How's it doing that? And so we're impressed with what's that thing on TV there where people compete for singing or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
With Simon Cowell or whoever.
Yeah,
That shows you how
pretty
far
much.
back I go.
No,
But anyway, so we think that their voices are really complex. But I was reading that somebody, I think Justin Bieber, He's only good for about 3 octaves. An octave is 1 harmonic apart from the bass frequency. So he's only good for about 3 or 4. Same way with Beyonce, she's only good for 4.
Wow.
So
Which is a lot.
So it's interesting that these birds can do 17 harmonics
Yeah.
and such a little thing. So, well, here's a bird, typical bird here, and he's going to sing. And so we go through. We'll do a little anatomy here. So we have a mouth, of course, and he's got it open so he can put a sound out there. He's got a trachea right down there. He's got some bronchi. Okay, those are the things the tubes that go to the lungs. He's got a pair of lungs, and surrounding the lungs and is an air sac. And this all is part of the thing that allows them to give voice. All right, and then stuck right in the center of this thing is a syrinx. Okay, syrinx. Okay, so that sits there right in the middle, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But again, back to kind of some anatomy now and some physics. All right, so mammals have a voice box, okay, or larynx, okay, and that larynx is at the top of our trachea. So, well, almost all mammals, non-birds, we'll say non-birds.
Non-birds.
Okay? Because even amphibians, like frogs, have a larynx, okay? So larynx are voice box, and that's what forms our sounds. And then, of course, then we have a trachea, and the trachea leads down to the bronchi, which go into our lungs. So the air flows through there, and we make sounds. But birds are different. Birds have a throat, just like we do, but they have the trachea, and it goes all the way down to the place where the bronchi come off, and just before that is this syrinx. Okay, so the syrinx is what forms the sounds, and it's really a complicated device. So anyways, that's the basic anatomical difference between mammals and birds. And so we'll take a little bit closer look at the syrinx. This is a simplified version or display, okay? So you have the trachea come down here and 2 bronchi over here. And then you have this little section in here that we call the syrinx. And it has several different things to it. At the trachea, just after the syrinx, are some constrictor muscles, which control the width of the trachea. At that point, the trachea is somewhat flexible, so it moves in and out. Even ours does that, that way we can swallow those big pieces of steak and stuff, and sometimes we can't.
Yeah.
That's where Mr. Heimlich comes into
Right.
account. But anyway, so we got that. But there's so there's constrictor muscles after the syrinx and before it. So we have constrictor muscles that control the thickness or the width of the bronchi at that point, and also above that. And then this syrinx is basically in this clavicular sac, this air sac, and then inside here is this tympanic membrane, which vibrates and moves and does things like that to help to make the sounds. But it isn't that simple, okay? So one more step, okay? So we're going to talk about sound production. So air flowing over surface produces vibrations. And so you guys are all familiar with reed instruments and things like that. And fortunately, we have a duck caller here. So, Louis, what you got there?
Well, I have your basic duck call, and I've been trying to get this one apart, but I have scared many more ducks than I've called in.
Yeah.
This one usually sits around my house,
Okay.
and it is nice and pretty, and it looks like it's never been used. So,
Yep.
but it's a plastic reed inside a walnut barrel,
Yep.
and you have to blow into the correct end.
Right. Yeah.
I was warming it up.
Yes.
But you can make several calls. Most of them are, what I would do would be a straight call.
Yeah.
And then you have a feeding call. And then I've got a couple of goose calls.
Yeah. I think you can take one of those apart, can't you?
Yes. This one, you can remove the barrels. It's all acrylic.
Yeah.
But it has a plastic reed here.
Oh, Oh.
And of course, when you blow through it, it vibrates, right?
vibrates.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we're disturbing the people in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
We're making them hungry in there or something.
But and that's called a goose flute. I bought this one when I was like 17 years old, and it's been like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's got a real raspy call. Yeah,
Is that dog ears or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've used this one for many years, as you can tell, and I've refinished it several times. But it's got a real raspy goose call.
Oh,
Oh, very good.
And then I've had this one for a while. Warming it up
Yeah,
again.
right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, there's my 3 goose calls that whenever I go goose hunting, I take these 3. But all 3 of them have plastic reeds, and you can get into some of the duck calls and goose calls will cost upwards of $300 and $400, where they put the very good wooden reeds in them and turn them out of the best hardwoods and stuff.
Do you have to replace those reeds after
No,
any
no.
period of time?
Like I said, this one's got a couple of years on it, like 50 or more.
So those are very similar to the reeds that are in musical instruments,
Yeah,
like clarinets
yeah.
and saxophones and things like that. And but typically those are made of bamboo or some other
Yes.
kind of
And the
material.
original duck and goose calls were made with bamboo.
Yeah, so for $300 or $400, you go and just go down to Kroger's and buy some, duck or chicken
Well,
or
I
something.
can turn them on my lathe,
Yeah,
and some people do, and some of them are quite good at it. But if I knew how to use my duck calls, I'd probably turn a lot of them.
yeah.
But like I said, I've scared many more ducks that I've called in.
Yeah.
And
The 400-pound duck over there.
yeah,
right.
that's neat. But the diving ducks make a whistling call,
Yeah.
I've never had any luck with those.
Well, the wood ducks, they make that little peeping sound,
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
okay, so, anyways, and these reeds vibrate because of a principle called the Bernoulli effect. Good grief, they're good. I can't say anything today. So, and I was going to demonstrate that to you. So, this is one of these sciencey things that I'm going to describe.
I'm gonna have to move. Sorry,
So
everybody.
Bernoulli, I think he was an Italian, and he described, I think it was back in the 1700s, the effect of having wind blowing over a surface. Oh, you're getting far away, I'm not going to spit, okay? So,
I'll get further away.
yeah. So anyway, to demonstrate it, have a piece of paper wrapped around here. You do this at home. It's fun for the kids. And if you blow wind across here, what happens is that you have air going across the top and air going across the bottom. Well, if I blow air across the top, it tends to lift the paper, okay? Whereas underneath, it's just the regular air that is supporting it. So I'm going to blow across there. And you'll notice there's 2 things that's going to happen. The paper's going to move up, but you're also going to notice a little effect that it has at the end. So when I blow across there, it lifts up the paper, but right off the end here, you get some mixing of the air, okay? Some vortexes that occur, and that causes the paper to vibrate up and down. And if I could blow harder, I get that thing to vibrate faster, but then I'd be passed out, so. So this is the same kind of thing that happens when air moves across a surface. You get a differential in pressure from the bottom and reduced pressure on the top, and these vortexes and things out here cause the thing to vibrate. And so this is the thing that holds airplanes up, okay? It's just not faith, okay? Even though I know there's a lot of people that think it. So this is the thing that holds airplanes up, and we designed the airplane so we can reduce that vortex at the tail end, and and we could get into that later on. I'll let somebody else who wants to go into the flight and stuff. But the thing is that birds have wonderful ways of reducing that flutter or vibration in in the ends of their feathers. So this is a Bernoulli effect, and so we get vibrations as air goes past a reed or past your skin, or well, you get the same effect. When you drive your car and you roll down the windows at a high speed, and your car's going brrrr, okay, same type of thing, the Bernoulli effect. So the other thing that you get in sound and vibrations in sound production is you got the reed going and it's making sound, but typically you have some kind of a column, just like a trachea there, and the dimensions of the trachea or the column determine the frequency and the harmonics that are produced. So and you guys have gone to Peru, all have pan flutes, right? So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, there was some guy that made a lot of money playing pan flutes for a
Yes.
couple years, so I can't do that. So if you bear with me. Not too bad for a quarter. Okay, so anyways, maybe it was 10 pesos, I don't know. But anyways, as you notice, the smaller the tube, okay, and not only the length of it, but also the width of it determines the frequency of the sound that's produced. And also you notice that the sound isn't quite a pure sound. It's actually got some harmonics in it that are also being produced. And so it makes a very complicated sound. And then to give you an idea on, this is my favorite toy. I got this for the people up at Oak Farm Montessori. They want to know about how bats make sound. So,
Oh.
Okay, so this is, so here's a typical. So as I adjust the length of the column, okay, it affects the sound that's produced. So birds do the same thing. So birds go out there and they adjust the size of their trachea, their bronchi, and so they squeeze it in, let it expand. They pull back their heads, lengthen their trachea, shorten their trachea, so back and forth. So there's all kinds of things that are just going on. It just thrills me.
It's pretty neat.
So here's there are ceramics, and this is a little better picture of what's going on over here. So we have some different things. So we have this starting here in the middle. We have this medial tympanoform membrane. Okay, this membrane sits right there at the junction of the two bronchi, and that thing can actually be moved. It can actually be swollen up or pushed down. And then right on top of it is this pecilus, and that thing can be tilted to one side, the other side. Okay, so it affects which sound is coming out of which side or which bronchi. So effectively, you could have one sound coming up one side and a different sound coming up the other side. So a bird could duet with itself. So that's pretty slick. Okay, so. And then around the outside of the trachea, we have syringeal muscles, okay, that squeeze the trachea back and forth. So it affects the size of the trachea, and of course that affects the different kinds of sounds. There's also a lateral membrane here, right at the pinch point. And then also you have bronchial rings, okay? So these are the bronchial rings that keeps the thing stiff. So if you've seen a vacuum cleaner hose or something like that, you have those rings there that keep it from collapsing, okay? So they prevent the thing from collapsing. But also, though, we have the muscles. These brown things here represent muscles that actually squeeze and release and squeeze and release. So here, when a bird sings, there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's all kinds of directions coming out of the brain, going down to all these different muscles and constricting, releasing, and doing it in the right order so you get those sounds out. And then, even after they make the sound, there can be other modifications to the sound. So, opening and closing the beak. That's how they get that trill. There's little birds go, open the beaks real quick, and you get that real trill sound, And so, the speed is basically controlled by the size of the bird's beak. You have like those little warblers, they have those little fine beaks, or those little chipping sparrows, they have those little fine beaks, and they can move their beak very rapidly. But But whereas things like the cardinals and grosbeaks and things that have big heavy beaks can't move them very fast, so they depend more on their body to produce those sounds. Okay, so there's, but the problem is that with the speed, you have. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Go back one. Go back. Previous, is that previous? Okay. Along with the size of the beak, because of the speed, you don't get the richness of the sound. In other words, you don't get as many harmonics and frequencies. The faster you trill, the fewer the harmonics. Whereas a bird like a grosbeak has a very rich sound, but it's a very long song, so it has a very wide bandwidth. Okay. You also have a vibrating tongue. We won't get into that too much. But anyway, so that can affect the sound coming out. And also the head movement. Like I said, if you tilt the head back, you can project that sound, okay? So, And then there's some other adaptations. Here's one of my favorite guys here. And you guys have all heard these. What's the matter? Ruby's where is it? She says, "This is good eating."
I don't think Ruby would take down a sandhill.
No. Whoop. Oh, darn. Okay. So one of the things that you find in whooping crane or crane family and other of the large birds that do these trumpeting sounds is that they have a very long trachea. Okay, so here's their trachea, and it's folded around and around like a French horn. If you stretched out a French horn, it'd probably be about 15 feet long. But you take it and you fold it around, and that's how they get that nice, rich, long, gurgling sound.
And we have a question that kind of relates to this. Somebody asked, can a bird choke?
Can a bird choke? Well, I've seen a heron choke on a fish.
Yeah.
yeah, they can. Yeah, they I've seen some birds that have done that kind of thing. Or at least I've heard stories. I haven't seen it myself, but they can choke on food just like we can. And but typically, though, their esophagus and their trachea are separate. So as far as esophageal distress, esophageal. Jeez, I just wanted to add a couple syllables. Okay. So, anyways, So it's two different systems. The trachea and the esophagus are separate. Okay. So normally you wouldn't get it, but here's one of the things that happens, and I think I talked about this when we talked about baby birds. People find baby birds, and so what they want to do, they want to give it water, and invariably many of the people get the water going down the trachea instead of the esophagus, and they drown the bird, or at least put enough moisture in there that it induces pneumonia. So so two different systems, and so for choking, I guess it could happen, but if you notice on a bird that the trachea is under the tongue there and behind, so that the bird puts its tongue down to cover the trachea when it's swallowing food. So it shouldn't happen, but occasionally though, I've seen herons get something crossways in their throat and they can't swallow, and of course they die of starvation, not necessarily asphyxiation like we would.
I rescued a green heron one time that tried to eat about a 4-inch catfish. And with the dorsal fin sticking out both sides of the neck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
It wasn't any fun.
Wasn't it fun to give them mouth to mouth?
No. Get my hemostats out and start fishing.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to show you, the reed on this, I can get it to, I don't know if you can see it move or not.
You can see it vibrating from here.
Oh, yeah, that's neat.
So in conclusion, okay, I'm not going to go into much more science stuff because there's a lot more to this, about how do the birds learn their songs, and also the auditory connections between the hearing, the brain, and doing. It's really, really interesting. But in conclusion, wow, I'm really impressed by birds.
Wow.
And so I'm also impressed by the people who take care of birds. So some of them are here, but so anyways, there's a lot more to learn about birds, and every time I turn around, there's just a new topic. So if anybody has a thing that they would like to learn about or hear about, I can dig up something on it and I can talk for hours. I'm sorry. So, anyways, you can come visit us. Okay, there's the Raptor Adventure. You can sign up online. Go to soarinhawk.org and look down in there, and you can apply to go to one of our Raptor Adventures. Come visit us. Come visit Ruby and Georgie. Hey, Georgie, how you doing? Yeah. There's Ruby and Georgie. They need to get a chance to talk.
Yeah,
I've heard there's been some confusion, like the northern orioles and the Baltimore orioles are now lumped into one species, all northern orioles.
Yeah.
But their songs used to separate them.
Right, they do, and they still do. Yeah, there's still a lot of complaints about that. The northern and
Hi,
Baltimore
Ruby.
orioles being split up, and so
They're hybrids. Their song is either one or the other.
or mixed.
Are they?
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things, and that's one. You know what? That could be next week's topic.
Yeah.
How do birds learn
Hybrids?
song? Well, the thing is, not only do birds have songs, but they also have dialects.
Yes.
I was really surprised. I was out in Arizona and I heard some bird calling, and I said, "What world's that?" The guy said, "Song sparrow." I said, "That is no song sparrow," And sure enough, it was a song sparrow. And I said, "He sang a lot. He was right out there in Texas or someplace."
Hey,
He
y'all.
had his own dialect,
Wow.
and birds, but also birds pick up little bits and pieces from other birds, and so in fact, one of the big things is a lot of the migratory birds, they go to South America their first year, and they learn a lot of songs from South American birds, so they all come back, sound like
Come back with an accent.
come back with an accent or with other bird songs, and so bird watchers who depend upon hearing for identification of birds are sometimes very confused.
Oh, wow.
But the thing is that as more birds of the same species come back, then they correct it. So by within a month they usually have corrected the sounds, and they lose that South American accent, if you will.
I saw one for the first time this last year, a northern pintail mallard cross.
Oh yeah,
The weirdest looking duck I've ever seen, but
yeah, well, yeah.
I've never seen one of those.
Did he have a pintail or
He had the curly Q,
he had curly Q,
yeah,
but not the pintail?
but he had the head markings of a pintail.
Who's your daddy?
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, let's we're running way over time, but that's all right. It's, we don't mind.
This poor thing.
So, anyways, we do programs, okay? So we're available for schools, homeschoolers, community groups, scouts, churches, retirement homes. We're getting booked up. I think we have about another 40 programs this year already.
Wow.
So we're booking up. So get your name in here if you want us. We do special events. We go to birthdays, weddings, Eagle Awards, block parties. In fact, I think we have 2 block parties we're going to. And so I hope there's good food out there. And so anyways.
For us or the birds?
Well, we're not going to get into that.
Someone say food?
Somebody said food, yeah. That's when I get the most volunteers to go out to the, to the event. So anyways, you can go to soarinhawk.org and go to programs and you can sign up and, like I said, get your name in early, okay? And then don't forget, spend your stimulus check there at Amazon. And, I understand we're going to have an Amazon center here in Fort Wayne. So, boy, we'll be able to get our stuff instantly. No sooner will we finish typing, then it'll be on the porch. So go to Amazon Smiles or go to your Kroger Community Rewards. So help us out. We really could use the help this year. We've incurred more bills, since we moved into our new facility. So we have to keep the lights on, keep the toilet water running, and let's see, what else do we need? Oh, we need rats, and so it's $250. We have it's $250 a box of rats or mice, and so it's a bunch of money, and so we do need all the help we can get. So go ahead there and clean out that safe deposit box and give us those old $50 bills or whatever, and you can send that right to us for a tax deduction. So, anyways, I'm going to see you next week, and hopefully, and I think Gigi's going to be here and taking
Yep.
care of me. And did we do horizontal today?
Yes, we did.
I'm sorry about last week. I don't know. We may have to do last week's over again so it looks better, because it wanted us to do vertical. So I don't understand it exactly. So
Yeah, well, I don't understand it either. Sometimes with Facebook, it lets us to do it the way we want to do it. Other times, it's like, turn your camera around.
so I'm gonna say goodbye, and so we'll be here next week, and we'll be live again, and and if I feel strong enough, I'll get into how birds learn songs and what songs do they learn. So that sounds like a little bit of fun. And
Yep. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in,
bye.
Goodbye,
and we'll see you
Yeah.
next week.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everyone. Bye bye.
Bye. We keep saying bye. Watch your language here for a few minutes.